Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com. Before we get into this week's road report, make sure to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $10 until next football season. That's $10 at the Wolverine.com until next August. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is completely free. All right, let's get into this week's show. So I was back in the great state of Michigan last week and had a chance to see a pair of Michigan commits, Semaj Morgan and Amir Herring, both at West Bloomfield High School. West Bloomfield suffered a loss in the first round of the state playoffs. They drew a really tough match against Detroit powerhouse Cass Tech and suffered a loss there in the first round. But that didn't stop four-star offensive lineman Amir Herring from having a really good game. The future Wolverine served up quite a few pancakes and showed why he's one of the best members of Michigan's 2023 recruiting class. Herring is a guy that I think is really undervalued by On3. Of the four major recruiting sites, On3 is the only service that has him ranked as a 3-star. When you look at Herring, you don't necessarily see the NFL potential or a super high ceiling. And I think that's what On3 is looking for. But sort of like Mason Graham last cycle, I mean, I don't really care. I think Amir Herring is going to be a really, really good football player at the collegiate level, which is what we should all care about, right? I don't care about the NFL. I'm not watching that on Sundays. I'm watching, Michigan football on Saturdays. And Amir Herring is a great fit for Michigan, both on and off the field. This guy is a true road grader. He's an extremely physical run blocker. Like I said, he served up several pancakes. And what really impressed me about Herring is he wasn't just, blocking the man in front of him. He was getting out in space, showing some good athleticism, improved athleticism from when I saw him a year ago. Really good feet, getting to the next level, taking on linebackers, taking safeties, blocking to the whistle. I mean, this is a guy that was, again, getting out in space and moving like a dancing bear. He really was. I know that can be an overused term, but that's what Herring looked like on Friday night. He was matched up a few times against Michigan State edge commit Jalen Thompson and did really well against him, stonewalled him when Thompson was rushing the quarterback, did a nice job moving him against the run. Thompson actually had a really good game himself, but when he was matched up against Herring, he wasn't necessarily at his best. I thought Herring did a really good job of playing with a good base and just using inside hands. He's a guy that I know Cass Tech was complaining a lot about in regards to potential holding calls, but if it's not holding, if it doesn't get called, and two, again, I think he just did a really good job using inside hands, using really good technique, and that's the thing about Herring is, you don't necessarily see the ceiling because he's so maxed out right now from a technicals perspective. I mean, he plays with tremendous technique. He's a really smart player on the field as well. That's why he doesn't get called for holding. He knows how to block, how to use his hands, how to use leverage to get around the holding call penalties. But he is a strong kid. You can see the brute strength there. He's listed at right at about 6'3", which I would give him a legitimate 6'3", 6'3.5". I think he's a kid that's developed well physically, so he won't necessarily need a lot of physical or technical development. Any offensive lineman's usually going to have to sit a year or two anyway, so I definitely think he'll further develop, but I think he's a guy that, could start as a center or as an interior offensive lineman early on in his career. I really, again, think that On3 has undervalued Herring. I think he proved himself this summer against some of the best players in the country at Under Armour's Future 50 event. He was one of the final offensive line chosen for the final competition of the weekend, and he had an argument as the best offensive lineman there. I really thought he had a tremendous performance there, and then he came off of that and had a really strong senior year that ended on Friday night. But if you go watch the tape, I mean, you'll see a guy that's a bully, that plays with great technique, that has improved athleticism and foot speed. So I think Herring checks a lot of boxes. And then off the field, he comes from a great family, smart kid in the classroom, aspires to be a medical doctor. So he is the true embodiment of what you want in a Michigan man. On the flip side of the coin, you had Semaj Morgan, 3-star wide receiver commit. Semaj has been one of the more electric two-way players in the state of Michigan this year. He was in the running for Mr. Football. An early exit likely takes him out of contention, but he had a great season on both sides of the ball as a slot receiver, as an outside receiver, as a wildcat quarterback, as a true quarterback. West Bloomfield's QB1 actually got hurt, so Semaj had to take over as the starting quarterback for a couple of games, and then he played a lot of defensive back as well. He had a few interceptions returned for touchdowns throughout the year, so it was a little bit of a Swiss Army knife throughout the season. Now, Friday night was definitely not his most productive game. He was limited to about 40 yards on the offensive side of the ball and didn't have any highlight reel plays on defense, though he was involved on a number of tackles. But I do think that Morgan, I've seen him enough to know that he is a valuable weapon, a versatile guy that you can use in so many different areas. And the thing about Semaj is he has a relentless work ethic. He has that dog mentality that you really look for. So I definitely think he can be a Mike Sarenstill's type of player at Michigan, in the sense that he can start off at wide receiver, can play defensive back, can definitely fill that nickel type of role, which is, basically what he does at West Bloomfield in their secondary. As an offensive player, I think he's a slot, if he sticks there. He isn't the fastest straight line speed guy. Like, he doesn't have these amazing track times or anything like that, but he is football fast. He is quick in and out of his break. He accelerates really well. He's a technical route runner. He did a lot of off-season training just specifically on route running, which I had a chance to see live myself through various training sessions. I saw Morgan during the 7-on-7 circuit like 10 times, and he was always one of the best players regardless of tournament, going against some of the best defensive backs in the country. He knows how to get open, and like I said, he played a lot of quarterback. He can actually throw, but more so just he's really cerebral. He understands what the defense is trying to do, so he's another just really smart player. And then defensively, I hadn't really had a chance to see a lot of Morgan as a defensive back until this offseason. He played a little bit of it in 7-on-7 and was pretty impressive. And then throughout the season, he really, really impressed in the secondary. So that's why I do think he can be a guy that plays on either side of the ball at Michigan. And as Jim Harbaugh has shown throughout his tenure in Ann Arbor, he is very willing to let guys, play on both sides of the ball and give them a shot to see where they fit in best, or even play them both, throughout the course of the season. So I think Morgan is that Swiss Army knife. And like I said, he's a great culture fit as well. He's a little louder than Herring, but definitely brings that similar, just fit, just a good kid, great family. His mother's one of the best people you'll ever meet. His father is very actively involved in coaching up the youth throughout the Detroit metro area. So both of these kids are going to be great culture fits. They're going to really represent the university well. It has been an absolute pleasure covering both Herring and Morgan. It was sad that their seasons ended as abruptly as they did, but I was glad that I had a chance to see their final high school games after covering them for so many years. So big shout out to both Herring and Morgan and their families for allowing me to be a part of their recruiting processes. They will always be two of my favorite kids, and I'm looking forward to following their careers in Ann Arbor, and I'm sure Michigan fans will be very excited about both kids in the future. All right, guys, that does it for my road report. So saw a pair of commits this week, or last week, this week. I will be out seeing two major targets, Jaden Davis, Nicholas Harbaugh. You won't want to miss the show next week. So make sure to click the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. It is completely free, and make sure to sign up for insider information for my travels on the road. You definitely want the inside scoop on Harbaugh and Davis over at the Wolverine, $10 until next football season.